Dear saints of grace, I'm tempted to say how good it is to see you, although I can't, of course, actually see you. But it's good to have the knowledge that even as we are physically separated, we're still united in a fellowship, a communion that spans all times and all places. We are part of the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church that we lift up in our worship week in and week out. Today is Sunday, April 29th. It's the 5th Sunday in Lent. If we were gathered for worship, we would be hearing the story of Jesus raising his friend Lazarus from the dead. I'm not going to take the time right now to read the whole story, but I encourage you to take time as soon as possible to read it. It's in the 11th chapter of John's Gospel. Here are some of the highlights of the story. Jesus has 3 close friends, Lazarus, Mary, and Martha, who live in Bethany. That's about 3 or 4 miles from Jerusalem. Jesus is preaching a few days' journey away near the Jordan River, and he receives a message from Mary and Martha, the 2 sisters, that their brother Lazarus is very ill. They hope that Jesus will come quickly to heal him. For some reason that Jesus doesn't make clear, he keeps preaching along the Jordan for a couple more days before heading to see his friend in Bethany. As Jesus approaches Bethany, he's met by one of the sisters. Lazarus is dead, she tells Jesus. This wouldn't have happened if you had been here. Soon Jesus is met by the other sister and a throng of mourners. And Jesus asks to be taken to the tomb. When he gets there, Jesus cries. We all know what happened next. Jesus prays to his Father and then calls Lazarus out of the tomb of death and back into life. It has always intrigued me that the story ends right there. No questioning of Lazarus about his experience, no explanation by Jesus about why he chose to raise this particular man. As a matter of fact, we don't hear of Lazarus again. We assume he died again at some point. But for me, the most powerful moment of the story is the scene of Jesus standing at the grave of one of his close friends and openly crying. Why is Jesus crying? Isn't he about to reverse this death? Isn't he about to nullify the grief of the sisters and the friends? Jesus cries. Jesus cries, I think, because he identifies with human grief and suffering. Later, while hanging on the cross, Jesus recites one of the great laments of his Jewish tradition. My God, why have you forsaken me? In that tradition, expressing anger and even outrage at God for the hardships and plagues that surround us was ultimately a statement of faith. Even in the midst of hazards and disruptions in our lives and our own sense of powerlessness, we proclaim our faith in the God who raised Jesus from the grave as a sign once and for all that love reigns supreme. God is love. Amen.